Bandit misbehaves, so Bandit gets a diaper thrown at him. These are the moments of instant karma we have in Bluey, and the main character of all this karma this time will be Bandit. Throughout several episodes, he has behaved like a real jerk with his daughters and even with his own wife. Let's see what Bandit will pay for first. The whack with the yoga ball. An iconic moment where Bandit made us feel really sorry for poor Bingo. Panzone just didn't know how to control his strength with little Bingo, which ended up with him throwing the yoga ball so hard that he ran her over and left her unable to move. And what did he do?
Well, the game is over. I have to work. It's okay, honey.
And then after trying to apologize in a really weird way, he started slamming her against the yoga ball several times. Wow, Bandit, this is definitely going to cost you. 5 moments of karma. Let's start with the divine justice that Bingo got, and it's in the episode Barbecue. Well, even though Bluey and Muffin didn't let Bingo rest in her relaxing chair, she fiercely got rid of them with the insensitive Bandit. First, Bingo comes and snatches the hat that Bandit was going to use to cover himself from the sun. So for sure, everything went black. Then, Bingo shakes a leaf and throws a bug onto Bandit's big head, making Stripe end up dying of laughter because Bandit is scared of a little bug. To top it off, Bingo ends up throwing her drink at Bandit, not once but 3 times in a row. And to finish with a flourish, Bingo snatches Bandit's water bottle and ends up filling it with mud for her dressing. Wow, Bandit, Bingo really turned out to be very vengeful. Tricky, gotcha. But of course this wasn't going to be enough for the big prank that Bingo got. The next thing Bandit will have to pay with is his favorite activity, eating. And it was right on his birthday, in the Omelette episode, when karma made him pay for all the tears he caused poor Bingo. And he had to wait, I don't know how many hours until his omelette was ready. And to Bandit's bad luck, Chili, along with Bingo, were in charge of preparing Bandit's breakfast. Here, Bingo really went all out with her revenge, taking all the time in the world to make the perfect omelette. And Bandit was even held down by Bluey so he wouldn't try to go eat something. The good thing is that Bandit has a good reserve in that tamale belly to withstand the hunger. I think Bandit deserves some humiliation for making Bingo feel like that. And he pays for this karma with dance mode, where the girls made their dads dance no matter where they were. And Bandit had to do it while he was changing the address on his driver's license. Ha! He even made the cashier helping him uncomfortable. But all these humiliations, Bandit really deserves them. Well, besides making Bingo cry on the yoga ball, in this episode he also dared to steal her last chip from poor Bingo. So the dance in the middle of the plaza was a great way to put this chubby guy in his place. And speaking of food, Bandit had to pay with one of the most stressful moments of his life in the episode to bring here. Bingo not only throws dinner at Bandit, but also ends up spitting in his face. Ooh. But this moment of karma wasn't the only stress that Bandit had to endure. Since Bluey and Bingo were too hyperactive, Zonzo slipped on his dinner and spilled the rest of the food on himself. Dummy, you're such a dummy! Karma hit Bandit really hard, leaving him without half of his dinner and with Bluey and Bingo at their most frantic moment. But you see, friends, Bluey doesn't mess around. She's also been messed with several times, like that time when Bandit farted in her face several times. We saw it at a family gathering. Dad gets silly. In Fairies, Dad, and in Robot Dad, where even Bandit almost loses his cool. Subtitled by Jay and Corey. Or what about the obstacle races where he gave Bluey a yank by the hair, all just so Bandit could win? Here we're going to have to give Bandit 3 karmas, but the most intense ones, so he can have his chakras properly aligned with the universe. And we start off strong with the hospital episode, where the hits were so intense they probably even aligned Bandit's brain. Here, Bluey already knew what her dad was like before we saw all the other episodes, since this is one of the first ones they showed us, and apparently Bluey wanted to get her revenge early. Dr. Bluey not only hammered her dad's big belly several times, but also poked his butt and several other parts of his body with her syringe mercilessly. In fact, even Bandit himself was begging Dr. Bluey not to do it because he was already getting angry.
Ow, Bluey. Excuse me, doctor. Is this the last shot, please?
Tin?
Ow, Bluey.
You should be asleep.
No more shots.
But even at the end of the episode, he gave him the biggest shot of his life. Now we know why Bluey got kicked out of the hospital. And like we said at the beginning, Bluey shows no mercy when someone does something to him and gets back at them with ideas straight from the devil himself. And in Hairdressers, it was very clear to us, since Bandit ends up being the victim of Bluey and Bingo after they found lice on him.
Are you sure it's not just dandruff and...
Don't move!
And they don't just use any repellent, right? They take drastic measures, and the first thing they do is give him a cold shower. Then they give him a good spanking and grab him like a fly on the wall. They stayed, eliminate them, there's one over there. But since the fly swatter was probably too soft, they start hitting him with this wooden bird. And to top it all off, Bingo ends up deciding on the final torture. And wow, he really learned well. Well, they end up hanging Bandit upside down, then start throwing water balloons at him and finally cover his whole face with flour. They really breaded you well, Bandit. Is that enough for you to be more considerate with your daughters? And finally, we had to give Bandit a good humiliation to soften up all the beating he took. We found this karma in the episode Charades. Here things completely turned around for Bandit. And for making Bluey and Bingo play the no-talking game so they wouldn't bother him. Now he has to guess what the perfect gift for Muffin is.
Unicorn, moonlight, boom, there are thousands of them. Do you know which one Muffin wants? Can you tell me? No, they can't tell me. This is...
I'm sure Bluey and Bingo had a great time making fun of Bandit. We already saw that Don Panzas doesn't even think about what he says. Now let's move on to some instant karma that happened in the same episode. We all remember Bandit in this episode because he loved dancing to El Sonidito. In Fairies, Bandit was so busy talking about his job that he didn't realize he told Bingo even how she was going to die. Wow, this really broke Bingo's heart completely. Luckily, karma came instantly to Bandit, humiliating him by making him dance in front of all his neighbors. And we already knew something like this was going to happen since we saw the awful drawing Bingo made of Bandit. Another example of instant karma can be seen in the episode Squash. And here, Bandit really deserved this punishment because we know that sometimes he tries to be too clever, especially with Uncle Stripe Bandit. He was bragging that older brothers always beat younger brothers. And in his game, he tried to make Stripe feel bad, making him look like a loser. But he didn't expect that his own daughters would make him pay for it right then and there. His karma was simply that Bandit Bluey forced Bandit to lose against his will, also that Stripe and Bingo wouldn't feel like losers. Wow, Bandit, should you learn a little more from your own daughter? Little Bluey sure brings some big karma for Big Bandit and also Chili. Here the two of them really went overboard with poor Bluey, since she wanted to play a game where there were two Blueys, and then there were two. Bingo! And when it was Bluey's turn to beat Bingo, both of her parents said they preferred to have two Bingos. And what about Bluey? Don't they like her? The worst part is that after insulting her, they never apologized, not even as a joke. So here we're going to see what kinds of karma we have. We start with the time when Bluey threw Bandit from the top of a tree more than 2 meters high in the episode The Magic Asparagus. And now that Bandit got a good spanking, let's see how he learns to be more empathetic and maybe pass that tip on to Chili. Because of this, in the episode Duck Cake, it was the saddest we've ever seen Bandit. And that's because the big guy wanted to make his duck cake, but he just couldn't get it right. After failing so many times, he got even sadder than when we saw Chavo being called a thief in El Chavo del Ocho. Yeah, Bandit. Now do you know how Bluey felt when you told her you preferred two Bingos? Actually, I think this karma isn't enough. Let's give him another beating with Tina. The girls refused to follow their parents' orders, so they invented an imaginary friend named Tina, who beat them up several times and kept them subdued for quite a while. Ow, Tina, what? No, what? Excellent! This karma also happened to Chili. And the next time Bandit tried to be clever, not just with his daughters, but also with Chili, is in the episode Annoying. Here we see how Bandit is a complete annoyance and has bothered everyone with his jokes, like asking them for the password right when they need to go to the bathroom, changing Bluey and Bingo's names, pretending to be Chili, and even eating Bingo's ice cream. All these little jokes are going to cost Bandit a lot because karma doesn't forgive. And that's why he's gonna get a good spanking in the episode. Magic, and poor guy, because he's going to have to endure them since he can't use magic. But since we know that a few hits aren't enough for Bandit, the universe did its thing and they ended up shaving off his mullet haircut on the dog. Sheep, yes, everything's fine here, just fixing his hair. Alright, Bandit, so you start understanding that making jokes isn't that funny. And finally, we see Chili getting back at this big-bellied guy in the episode Whale's Chili. First, she filled her belly with chips and soda, then did a dive and knocked all the air out of Bandit. Look at that squished Morse face. Do you remember that time when Bluey found a bill and wanted Bandit to take her out for ice cream? Bandit said it was his bill, and that if they wanted him to take them out for ice cream, they'd have to carry him to the car and even drive. What kind of father is this? The good thing is that in the same episode, Bandit got his karma. They threw him down the stairs, and they also knocked him over with a skateboard. Honestly, I don't think Bandit cared, as he just kept going like nothing happened. So let's give him more karma, like in the episode Claw, where he took a big hit to his back. It was so hard that they had to bandage it. And he got his next karma in the episode Dad Robot. Bluey and Bingo had to deactivate their Dad Robot, but they did it just using slipper hits. They left him lying on the floor and hit him without mercy. I'm sure that after that, Bandit learned his lesson well. And finally, we have the time when Bandit didn't keep any of the promises he made to Bluey and Bingo. And of course, we saw this in the episode Promises. For this action, we won't give him such a harsh punishment, just because he acknowledged his mistake in the same episode. But we shouldn't let it slide. We should at least punish him a little. And for this episode, we find his karma in Tickle Crabs, where even though he's quite tired and just wants to get some sleep, Bluey and Bingo come to bother him, so that he'll play Tickle Crabs with them. Oh well, Bandit, did you bring all these karmas on yourself? And tell us, friends, do you have other moments when Bandit got his instant karma? Let us know in the comments.